Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. So as I promised you guys in my last video about my recent relapse with burnout situations, taking a quick vacation today, just visiting a small town outside of Phoenix, and in just 24 hours, a lot of things have clicked. Things that have caused me a lot of struggles over the last few weeks have clicked, and so I'm so glad I took this trip, even though I got to go home later this weekend. One of my downfalls, now that I look back at the last couple of weeks, is I have a hard time formulating the right things to say, the right things to do, the right responses as they're happening, right? So let's say I go to a meeting at work or meet with one of my clients and they say something unexpected that I didn't prepare for. I often respond with the worst thing possible. And it's not until a week later, a day later, sometimes even 5 minutes later, oh my God, that could have been handled this way. And it often isn't early enough for me to correct course, right? I'll give you an example. I had a tutoring client who drove me nuts. I found him over Facebook Marketplace, and I like to think I care about all of my students. The truth is that I let all of my students walk all over me sometimes because I'm too shy to break the beat of the music when I need to. I don't know if break the beat of the music is the right word for the concept, but when things are flowing, I have a tendency to let the wind blow me away instead of breaking the wind, if you will. The student I was teaching was he's kind of new to using computers. He's almost retired. He wants to learn some new skills to see if he can do something about his career. I want to say he's in his mid to late 60s. And first he argued with me about the rate, but then I realized, you know what? I probably will never have another student who's nearly as flexible. You know, I don't have to feel pressure to be punctual because he doesn't have other commitments going on. And that's actually a big benefit to me, believe it or not. I know it sounds weird, but the flexibility of being able to be 10, 15 minutes early, late, in either direction, that's a huge benefit, because if I have a client, let's say it's 12 o'clock right now, and I have a client from 2 to 3, and it's very rigid, I have to keep track of the time. I'll let you think about it. My work really begins much before 2 when that happens. So at first I wasn't very upset about him, but then I told him I'm doing him a huge favor, because, you know, this is below the rate that I charged when I was working on my PhD many years ago. And you know how much not only have prices gone up since then, but my skills have gone up. I've graduated with my PhD. Do you a huge favor. And he comes to my class completely strung out. I didn't realize he was strung out at first, because I normally don't deal with that kind of stuff. But one day, just the other day, he was needed to enter his username and password into something. I let him practice. I could have typed it for him, but I let him practice his typing. He stared at the screen 10-15 minutes, and I asked him, gee, you know, I know you need practice typing, but how about you at least put your hands on the keyboard? And after he spent 10 or 15 minutes doing that, and I helped him with finding where the letters are and all that, I asked him, what was the holdup? You know, even, you know, I told him, you know, I've been to other countries before, and even though I might not speak their languages, I could still find my way around their keyboard, you know, in Japan and Chinese, and I asked him what was the holdup, and he said, you know, maybe it's the marijuana I've been smoking. And my heart sinks. I smoke marijuana from time to time. I've never been messed up to the point of that, right? And I'm doing him a huge favor, you know, and not to mention, even though quote unquote, I get to be flexible with time with him. He often doesn't answer the phone, and so for the 1 hour class that I'm being paid almost nothing for, oftentimes I have to spend another hour or two chasing him down, and then he comes here strung out, right? If I want to hang around strung out people, I could actually be doing something that I like to do, right? And so I'm very upset with it. But at the moment, there are so many things I could have said to him. I could have walked away from him when he came strung out. I could have put my foot down on the rate. I could have put my foot down when I couldn't reach him. And that's the problem I run into. 5 minutes later, or when I'm outside of the city, it becomes so easy to think about, right? I have a problem with face-to-face, breaking the beat of the music. Too many times I get involved in relationships, and I should break up, and but I don't want to break the beat of the music. I try to get her to break up with me. I do that too much. And then I'm upset when she breaks up with me, right? I have a hard time with changing course. And right now at my job, a lot of things I really could speak up about. Right now I'm thinking, actually it's kind of funny, I teach at Phoenix College right now, and when I first got hired, we never discussed the compensation, and I didn't know what my compensation was until my first direct deposit hit. That's how unusual it was, and I really want to talk about it. I'm thinking when I go home, I'm going to bring up that, hey, we never talked about my compensation. I know you had to sit in on a few of my classes, and so why don't we, first of all, do you have any suggestions for my teaching going forward? I'm thinking if they can't budge on the compensation, which is probably the case. I talked to a few of my colleagues, and they already mentioned it was kind of not really negotiable. But I want to pretend to not realize that, because if they don't budge on the compensation, I want to talk about next year. There's a very specific day I want to take off. And so, anyways, but it's so easy to strategize about this. As soon as I sit face to face with the department chair and she says something that I wasn't prepared for, bang, all my plans go out the window. That's how a lot of my negotiations happen. I need to learn this. Two things I need to learn. One, slow down. It's okay to take 10-20 seconds to think about what to say next. And two, be okay with breaking the beat of the music, right? Don't allow wind to just blow you wherever it needs to blow you. I need to learn those two things. The slowing down is probably going to be the hardest part. I get nervous when I have to wait 15 seconds. Actually, earlier today, I had a interesting situation. I was applying for a consignment shop to sell some of my art, and I kept accidentally interrupting the person I was talking to on the other end of the phone, because I would wait 10 seconds. I would think it would be long enough. I'd start to speak, but she would start to speak at the same time, and then I would shut up because I would think that she might be giving something. See, part of the problem with this consignment art is that relative to what I'm selling my art for, my material's pretty expensive, right? I make my stuff out of bismuth, out of tin, out of zinc, out of lead. None of those materials are cheap, right? And compared to the other art that I see at the consignment shop, at least, right? People are doing paintings, they're doing plastic, wood, whatever, right? And so I can't take the same kind of cut I can't allow the consignment shop to take the same kind of cut that these other art people are doing. So I have to negotiate a little bit, right? And so I was negotiating with this, I want to say, just from her accent, Eastern European girl on the other end of the phone. I kept interrupting her because I would wait 10 seconds, think that it was long enough, and speak, and then she would speak at the same time. And then I would want her to finish. She would want me to finish. And it just became really awkward, right? So maybe I need to learn my timing a little bit better, too. I had a very upsetting situation with a different consignment shop, and I really should have fired them on the spot. You guys saw the Coliseum that I made out of bismuth. That's not a very easy pour. It's got about 6 pounds of bismuth. So I was negotiating with the consignment shop, and they agreed to take a 30% cut. They usually take a 50%, but just given how much the raw materials cost, they decided to take a 30. And I thought I got to get $100 a piece for the Coliseum. Just how hard it is to pour. It's got $50 worth of raw material. So I'm thinking they're going to mark it as 135 or so, right? They take a 30% cut. I get 100. But last week I was shopping there, and I just happened to see that my Coliseum had been marked for $215. And I talked to the owner about it, and she said, you know what? The last two buyers who came here paid the 135 without hesitation, and so I really thought you could do better. And I said, that may be so, but I really think you should have discussed it with me. And by the way, I really think, let's go with 135. I really need to get my name out there more so than whatever the money is. And I'm actually, I really enjoy working on this. And right now I'm just working toward getting my name out there. And we discussed it a little bit. We compromised on 160, and she would give me 120 of that. And very upsetting that I bet she sold a bunch of them at $215 without telling me. And I should have yanked all my stuff and fired her on the spot. But unfortunately, two reasons I didn't do it. Number one, I hate breaking the beat of the music. And number two, I was traveling and I didn't really want to haul all my stuff out of there. And at least I should have told her that, you know, I'm done with you. Maybe I'll come back to get my stuff, but I'm done with you. I really should have. But I have a big problem with the beat of the music. The beat. I need to break it sometimes, and I have a hard time with that.